Chapter 1: The Inheritance. The letter arrived with no return address, just a wax seal stamped into yellowing parchment, and Clara's full name in perfect ink. Her full name. No one used that anymore. Inside, the words were precise, legal, and cold. You have inherited the Locke residence and all possessions within. A will has been executed in your name. Clara had never heard of a Lavinia Locke, and yet the papers knew her mother's maiden name, her daughter's birth date, even the hospital where she was born. Something about it felt curated. Still, curiosity outweighed hesitation. Mason, her husband, seemed indifferent. Maybe it's legit, maybe it's junk. But Sophie, their 6-year-old, squealed when she heard the word mansion. They arrived a week later, pulling off the cracked county road and into a clearing choked with fog. The house emerged like a bruise, 3 stories tall, rotting shutters hanging askew, windows like blind eyes. Sophie gasped. Clara whispered, "Don't touch anything yet." But Sophie was already reaching for the iron gate, and something cold breathed back. Chapter 2: A doll in the dust. The Locke estate was old, but not abandoned. The floors creaked, but the furniture was covered in cloth, not rot. Paintings watched from cracked frames, portraits with blank eyes and fragile smiles. The attic was locked, so was the cellar. In the upstairs nursery, Sophie found her, a porcelain doll, pristine amid cobwebs and dust, red velvet dress, glass eyes, pale face with faint painted lashes. To lifelike, Sophie hugged her without hesitation. "Her name's Maribelle," she announced. Clara hadn't told her the name. She hadn't seen a tag or a box. That night, Sophie insisted the doll sleep beside her. Clara agreed. What harm could it do? At 3:17 a.m., Clara woke suddenly. Down the hall, Sophie was talking. "No, I don't think shed like that," she whispered. Then silence. Then laughter. 2 voices. Chapter 3: Lavinia's shadow. A faded photo album revealed faces too old to belong to their time. Victorian dresses. And smiling women. Children with eyes blurred by movement. Clara stopped at one photo. A woman with impossibly long fingers stood behind a girl clutching the same porcelain doll Sophie now slept with. In looping ink, the back read, "Lavinia and daughter, 1893. Bound together. That afternoon, Sophie asked, "Did great-granny Lavinia ever make other dolls?" "What?" Clara blinked. "Why would you say that?" Maribelle said they all broke. That night, Clara locked the doll in the hall cabinet while Sophie slept. At dawn, the cabinet was open, and Maribelle was in the kitchen, seated at the table, staring at Clara. Chapter for the first bleed. It started with Sophie's nosebleeds. Bright red, sudden, soaking pillowcases in the night. "Dry air," Mason muttered. But Clara wasn't convinced. Not after she found tiny needle prick wounds on Sophie's arms. Barely noticeable, unless you looked closely. And Sophie had begun drawing, not cartoons, but detailed ink sketches of women stitched together, their mouths replaced with thread. In one drawing, Clara saw herself, eyes sewn shut, a doll beside her. Sophie had also stopped eating meals, but somehow didn't lose weight. When Clara asked why she skipped lunch, Sophie replied, "Maribelle feeds me. In dreams. It tastes like honey and dust." Clara threw the doll into the basement. Sophie screamed all night. Chapter 5: The Lockwood Dollmaker. Research brought her to the town library. An elderly woman at the desk knew the name instantly. Lavinia Locke, dollmaker, eccentric. Some say she went mad after her daughter died. Died how? Clara asked. The librarian only whispered. She didn't die. She was moved. In the archives, Clara found a passage from a banned book on American occultism. It mentioned Lavinia by name. She practiced the binding rite, an attempt to preserve the soul through vessels of porcelain. Her dolls were not toys, they were prisons. Clara's hands trembled. The house hadn't inherited a doll, it had inherited a prisoner, and Sophie was next in line. Chapter 6: Scratching in the walls. Every night, after midnight, the scratching began. At first, Clara thought it was mice. Old houses always had them. But it wasn't in the walls. It was from inside the vents, like fingernails dragging along metal. Then came the whispering. "Mommy can't hear you down here. It's all right to let go. She'll take good care of us this time." Clara opened the floor grate beneath Sophie's bed. Inside was a wad of red string and a single human tooth wrapped in lace. Chapter 7. Mason's growing distance. Mason, once skeptical, now seemed entranced. He spent hours alone in the study, where a cabinet held old journals of Lavinia's doll-making techniques. Clara would find him murmuring to himself, sketching designs in the margins. "What are you doing?" she asked once. He looked up with vacant eyes. "They just want to be remembered." The man she married had never touched a pencil in years. Now he carved wood in the garage, shaping something too small to be furniture, too delicate to be innocent. Clara lifted the tarp one day. It was a doll, with her face. Chapter 8. Sophie's eyes. Sophie stopped blinking. She sat at the dinner table, perfectly still, lips parted slightly. Her pupils began to dilate unnaturally, staying wide, even in light, and her voice wasn't always her own. "Sophie, sweetie, are you okay?" "She's with me now," the girl said, slowly, "and we like it better this way." When Clara screamed Mason's name, he didn't come. He was in the garage, rocking slowly, carving hair into another doll's scalp. That night, Clara found 2 dolls in a row, seated in Sophie's window. One looked like Mason, the other looked like her. Chapter 9. The trunk in the cellar. Clara broke the lock on the basement door. The air was thick, not with dust, but something sweet and rotting. At the far wall stood a trunk covered in iron bands. When she touched it, the air vibrated. Her ears popped. She forced it open. Inside, dozens of dolls, each with faces that looked almost human, paint etched into porcelain. Some had mouths sewn shut. Others had their eyes carved out and filled with glass beads. At the bottom, she found a diary, Lavinia's. One entry read, "The soul resists for the first few nights. Then it breaks. Then it binds. My daughter was the first. I miss her, even though she's always watching." Clara slammed the trunk shut, and the dolls screamed. Chapter 10. Painted nightmares. Clara began to dream in colors she couldn't name. In one dream, she stood in a white room filled with dolls nailed to the walls, all whispering in unison. Maribelle sat in a chair in the center, her eyes bleeding black ink. "You let her in," the doll said. "You opened the house when the moon was wrong." When she woke, her hands were covered in paint, red and white, and in her lap was a paintbrush. The canvas on the wall now displayed a horrific image of Sophie, crucified by string, her mouth filled with thread. Clara screamed, but the scream wasn't hers. It came from Maribelle, sitting politely on the windowsill. Chapter 11. The porcelain room. Clara found a door she hadn't noticed before, behind the linen closet, sealed in warped wallpaper. Inside was a hidden room, shelves upon shelves of dolls in glass cases. Each had a tiny brass plaque, names, ages, dates: Eliza, 7, 1884, Joanna, 10, 1897, Sophie, 6, 2025. Clara's breath caught. That last doll was not behind glass. It stood in the center of the room, waiting. Its eyes matched Sophie's exactly. Chapter 12. Strings beneath skin. Clara took Sophie to the hospital. Doctors said the child was fine, no physical issues. But when Clara demanded a full body scan, they found something unusual. Threads, dozens of thin red threads woven just beneath the skin, following veins, wrapped around joints, like a marionette. Scar tissue, the technician said nervously. Clara fled before they could ask more questions. That night, Sophie giggled in her sleep and whispered, "I'm almost finished inside." Chapter 13. The broken doll. Clara smashed Maribelle with a hammer. She did it while Sophie was out in the yard with Mason, who no longer looked like Mason. His eyes were too pale, his hands too slow. Maribelle shattered into dozens of pieces, but the next morning, the doll was back on the shelf, completely whole, except now, her smile was slightly wider, and her head turned just a little every time Clara passed the room. Chapter 14. Mason's secret. Clara followed Mason to the woods behind the house. He walked barefoot, glassy-eyed, carrying something wrapped in cloth. When he reached the old well, he began to chant words that didn't belong in any language Clara had heard. Ancient, wounded. She watched him unwrap the bundle. It was a new doll, this one faceless. "Shall have your eyes," he murmured. "And Sophie's soul. She just needs time." Clara confronted him. Mason turned. "She's making us a family again," he said. "No one ever dies in Porcelain." Chapter 15. The binding. Sophie stopped speaking altogether. She began to hum the same three-note tune, over and over, all day and all night. Her skin turned paler, cooler, when Clara touched her arm. It felt like fired ceramic beneath a thin coat of flesh, and her heartbeat, when there was one, didn't sound right. It sounded hollow. Clara found her in the middle of the night, drawing the final page of a sketchbook, a circle of dolls around a woman, each sewing string into her limbs. In the center, a screaming mouth. It looked just like Clara's. Chapter 16. The journal of the damned. Clara tore through the attic with shaking hands, desperate to find Lavinia's full journal. Behind a rotted wallboard, she found a sealed wooden box. Inside, a ring of child's teeth, strung together like a necklace, a dried braid of hair, a book wrapped in preserved skin. The journal, written in two hands, Lavinia's and a younger, shakier one, the daughter. It confirmed her worst fear. The dolls are not vessels, they are hosts. Souls break slowly, like glass underwater. A perfect binding requires three: the vessel, the donor, and the watcher. Sophie was the vessel, Clara the donor, and the watcher. Clara turned the page, a sketch of a porcelain eye, still wet with paint. Chapter 17. Strings of blood. Sophie's hum became a language, a song. The walls responded. Cracks formed where none had been, and from them emerged red and twitching, like veins seeking skin. Clara awoke one night to find the hole covered in them, stretching from Sophie's door to every corner of the house. She tried to cut them. The scissors snapped. She tried to burn them. They screamed. She wrapped her hands in cloth and tore at them bare-fingered. And that's when she realized they were growing from the wood. The house was no longer wood, it was bone. Chapter 18. The dollmakers returned. The mirror in the nursery no longer showed Clara. Instead, it showed Lavinia, a woman with hollow cheeks, eyes made of pearl, and fingers that bent wrong, like joints had been re-threaded. She spoke without moving her mouth. "You brought her. You opened the door. The moon gave you consent." Clara screamed. The reflection reached out, and on Clara's arm appeared 5 crescent-shaped gouges, as if porcelain nails had pierced flesh. Lavinia smiled. "She's almost ready. The kill is warm." Chapter 19. Sophie's doll. Clara tried to take Sophie and run. They got as far as the front door. Sophie stood still, eyes wide, mouth slack. "She's inside me," she whispered. "She said I'd forget you if we leave." "I don't want to forget you." And then Sophie collapsed, spasming, eyes rolling back, froth at her lips. Clara held her daughter, screaming, begging, and for a moment, just one moment, Sophie blinked. "Mommy." Then she went limp, cold, too cold. Chapter 20. The fire in the dollhouse. Clara returned to the hidden room. The shelves, the dolls, the plaque with Sophie's name. She smashed them all. Glass exploded. Porcelain cracked. Each doll screamed. Each face melted. Then the house groaned. A deep, inhuman creak, like a ship twisting at sea. The walls began to bleed paint. The red string retracted, burning as it poured back into the wood. Clara dropped to her knees and saw Sophie's real dollhouse on fire, not burning with flame, but with white porcelain light. Inside, a tiny doll of Clara was begging to be let out. Chapter 21. Cracks in the flesh. Clara looked in the mirror. A fine fracture ran across her cheek, not skin, blaze. Her eyes were too still. Her voice echoed faintly. Even in small rooms, she pressed her hands to her stomach, hard, hollow. "No," she whispered. "No, no, no." Behind her, Maribelle sat on the dresser. Now she had Clara's smile and Sophie's eyes. Chapter 20. To the watcher wakes. Lavinia's journal held one final entry, scrawled in red ink, almost illegible. "When the donor accepts the fracture, the watcher may rise. Only Only one soul remains to bind. The house remembers. The house forgives nothing. At midnight, Clara woke to the sound of laughter, but not Sophie's. Dozens of tiny voices. From under the floorboards, inside the vents, behind the paintings. She followed them. In the cellar, a figure stood. Porcelain white, -1 feet tall, faceless, cracked. The watcher, its fingers ended in thread, and it was sewing itself a face. Chapter 23. Sophie. Reborn Clara ran to Sophie's room. She was standing, fully dressed, motionless, holding Maribelle. But now, the doll was fused to her hand. The ceramic had melted into her flesh, like a glove of bone. Sophie turned. "I'm not yours anymore," she said, and smiled. The same sharp, hairline smile that Lavinia wore in every portrait. Her voice became too. "She gave me forever. What did you ever give me but fear?" Then she blinked, and for a moment, just 1 second, Clara saw her daughter behind the eyes. "Mommy, help," and then she was gone again. Chapter 24. The final kill. The fireplace in the study had been cold 4 years. That night, it lit itself. White fire, silent, inside the flames, shapes right, childlike, armless, faceless, dolls not yet finished. The air reeked of sugar and bone. Mason appeared beside her, hollow-eyed. "We all burn eventually," he said. "Some of us just get remade." You walked into the flames, didn't scream, didn't stop, just cracked, like old clay. And Clara realized the truth. This wasn't a house, it was a kill, and she was next. Chapter 25. Whispers. In the porcelain, Clara faced the watcher. The room trembled, dolls screamed. The air split open like fabric, revealing the face of the house itself. A giant, doll-like mask, split down the center, stitched with veins. Sophie stood behind it, still holding Maribelle. "You can have me," Clara said. "Just let her go." The house paused. Then it spoke, with every voice it had ever taken. "You already gave yourself the night you opened the door." Clara ran to Sophie, tearing the doll free. Sophie collapsed, screaming. Maribelle shattered. So did the watcher. So did the house. Porcelain's snow fell 4 hours. When Sophie woke, they were in a hospital. No house, no Mason, no Lavinia. But Clara's arms never felt warm again, and behind her daughter's left eye a tiny crack still remained. The end.